Chapter 5. Marked by the Alpha King. I stood at the precipice of change. The edge of the pack's sacred clearing was my threshold, between the haunted woods of my yesterday and the promise of a tomorrow with Ezra. My heart danced a frenetic waltz within my chest, each beat an echo of anticipation laced with the ghosts of fear. I hesitated, the air thick with the scent of ancient exotic trees and whispered secrets. The weight of my past traumas loomed over me like the shadows at dusk, yet the allure of Ezra's nearness beckoned me with a siren's call that resonated deep in my bones. With a breath that tasted of resolve, I stepped forward, letting the touch of the cool earth beneath my feet tether me to the now. It was firm, real, a stark contrast to the ethereal caress of the breeze that played with the dark locks of my hair. Each step was a defiance, an act of rebellion against the memories that clawed at the edges of my mind. Scenes of a childhood marred by my uncle's cruel hand flickered like a malevolent spectre seeking to claim my spirit once more. His voice, a venomous whisper, sought to bind me to the pain, but I would not be shackled again. I pushed aside the remnants of those torrid years, banishing them to the recesses from which they came. Instead, I embraced the warmth that emanated from the very thought of Ezra. He, whose presence felt like a beacon in the darkest night, offered a trust that I had never known but found myself yearning for with an intensity that startled me. In him, there was the promise of sanctuary, a reprieve from the psychological tempest that often raged within. Each deliberate step across the clearing brought me closer to that solace, closer to the man who bore the strength of the Alpha King, yet offered me tenderness that belied his fierce exterior. With every inch of distance conquered, I could feel the chains of my history loosen, their grip lessening as Ezra's unseen aura enveloped me in its embrace. My path through the Enchanted Forest had been one of brambles and thorns, but now, standing on the cusp of something profound, I allowed myself to believe in the potential for rebirth, for love that could transcend the horrors of my past. The moon above bathed the clearing in her luminescent grace, a silent witness to my metamorphosis, and I felt her power stir within me, whispering of freedom and the divine bond that called to me with the voice of destiny. As I approached, Ezra stood like a steadfast sentinel amidst the whispering leaves of the Enchanted Forest. The clearing, our hallowed ground, hummed with ancient secrets, and there he was, calm assurance cloaked in the flesh of an Alpha King. His golden amber eyes found mine, piercing through the veil of my trepidation. It was within that molten gaze I perceived a solemn vow, a covenant of safety and acceptance that my fractured spirit had thirsted for across the desolate years. My breath caught in the hollow of my throat as he extended his hand toward me. A simple gesture, yet laden with unspoken promises and smouldering anticipation. My fingers trembled as they brushed against his, and the moment his skin met mine, it was as if a spark alighted upon dry tinder. That touch, so gentle and unassuming, sent a jolt through the core of my being, awakening a longing that had been meticulously buried beneath layers of sorrow and pain. Ezra's grasp was tender, though his hands bore the calluses of power and war. In their clasp, I felt the shiver of desire crackling through me like lightning, resurrecting sensations I'd long endeavored to suppress. The connection tethered us, an unseen thread woven by the moon goddess herself, binding me to this man whose very presence beckoned my soul from its haunted recesses. "Amara," he murmured, and his voice was the incarnate echo of Twilight's embrace, deep, resonant, and fraught with a haunting melody that spoke directly to the wounded creature cowering within my chest. I dared not speak, fearing the fragility of the spell that enveloped us. Instead, I allowed myself to be drawn into the orbit of his existence, where the shadows of my past seemed to dissolve under the weight of his acceptance. Here, in the heart of the cursed forest, I stood on the precipice of transformation, gazing into the eyes of the one who offered redemption, intertwined with the touch of passion's flame. The touch of his hand lingered like the ghost of a forbidden caress, leading me away from the heart of my darkness. Each step we took was a silent covenant, a soft footfall on the path to reclaiming the shattered pieces of my soul. The tapestries of my history unfurled within me, a grim tableau of confinement and cruelty beneath my uncle's iron grip, where hope withered in the cold shadow of oppression. But now, as Ezra guided me through the corridors that whispered of ancient secrets and regal ghosts, I was no mere wraith wandering the labyrinth of past afflictions. With each breath, I drew strength from the knowledge that the shackles which once bound my spirit had been forged into the weapons of my liberation. The echoes of my lineage pulsed within my veins, a stirring reminder of the power I wielded, not just as a creature of moon and earth, but as Amara Winters, born of resilience and baptized in the fire of defiance. We emerged into the private gardens, an oasis enshrined within the palace's melancholic grandeur. The moon bathed us in her argent benediction, spilling silver over the scenery like a painter possessed by divine lunacy. Long, flowing curtains danced to the nocturne's hymn, their shadows intertwining with the tangled flora, a symphony of light and dark that mirrored the conflict that had long raged within me. This was the realm of possibility, of whispered promises and tender dreams that flourished amidst the thorns of reality. The air was thick with the scent of jasmine and rose, a perfumed veil that seduced the senses and cloaked the mind from the world's sharp edges. In this hidden sanctum, the palace's true heart, time seemed to hold its breath, awaiting the unfolding of our intertwined destinies. And I, the unlikely heroine of my own grim fable, stood poised at the threshold of dawn and dusk, where the spectres of my past might finally be laid to rest beneath the watchful gaze of the celestial guardian overhead. We settled upon the ottoman bed, an island of comfort in a sea of shadows in the middle of this oasis. Ezra's voice, a low murmur against the backdrop of silence, poured over me like warm honey, rich and soothing. "Your spirit is unbreakable, Amara," he said with a reverence that coaxed my soul from its fortress of solitude. "In the face of darkness, you shine with a resilience that humbles me." His words were a balm to the wounds inflicted by a world cruel and unforgiving. They wrapped around me, a protective cloak woven of trust and admiration. The air between us thickened with unsaid promises, and I felt the last tendrils of trepidation dissolve within their warmth. I was trembling with the excitement that bursted in my core. A shift occurred deep in the marrow of my being, a subtle yet earth-shattering release. The chains that had bound my heart for so long clattered to the ground, their iron links turning to dust at our feet. I leaned into him, my body a vessel for the vulnerability I had guarded so fiercely. In his embrace, I placed my fractured past, hoping, no, yearning for him to claim the scattered pieces and make them whole. "Let this be the night where fate seals our bond," I whispered into the quietude, the words a silent prayer to the moon goddess who watched from her celestial throne. My heart thrummed with the rhythm of newfound freedom, each beat a hymn to the love that beckoned me forward. Will the Alpha mark me tonight? I wondered. Darkness swirled within the corners of the royal palace, a testament to the secrets it cradled in its ancient embrace. The moonlight, a spectral artist, painted the ottoman bed where I sat with Ezra, each brushstroke a delicate touch upon our entwined forms. It was a scene plucked from a Gothic ballad, one wherein the heroine stands at the precipice of desire and destruction. "Amara," he whispered, his voice the melody that had haunted my dreams. His fingers traced the contour of my jaw, a path of fire against the chill of the night. In that fleeting caress lay an invitation, a call to surrender to the tempest of emotions brewing within me for so long. And so, with the weight of countless nights spent imprisoned by fear, I chose to let go. A deep exhale, and my past, a grotesque tapestry of shadows, seemed to retreat into the recesses of my mind. The sensation of Ezra's touch spread through me, a symphony of sensation that played upon every nerve, silencing the cacophony of my haunted memories while he played me down on the ottoman. Our lips met, a collision of need and assurance, as though kissing the truth into each other's souls. His lips felt so plumb. His hands roamed over my skin, mapping out the terrain of a body that had known too much pain. Yet now, beneath his touch, I felt nothing but the awakening of long-dormant desires. "I am yours, Ezra," I breathed, the word barely a whisper, yet it echoed with the power of a solemn vow. My voice, once caged by the horrors of a life led in the shadows, now danced freely in the air between us. The rhythm of our bodies became a dance of passion and tenderness, a ballet performed on the stage of whispered confessions and shared breaths. He moved with the predatory grace of the wolf, yet each motion spoke of reverence, every stroke of his hands a sonnet to the bond we formed. He slowly undressed me, and I felt more naked, as if he could see my soul lingering behind my naked body. "I am a virgin," I exclaimed. He looked at me with his warm amber eyes and said, "Do not worry, little moon, as I will be careful with the present given to me by the moon goddess. I will never hurt or let anybody hurt you. You are my most precious desire," he whispered with his husky voice. The push and pull of our joined flesh was the ebb and flow of a dark sea, our desire the tide that drew us deeper into the abyss of pleasure. My senses reeled under the assault of his touch, heightened to a fever pitch by the latent power of my lineage, coursing through my veins like liquid silver under the moon's glow. I had never done this before, but my instinct guided me. We moved together, lost in the haunting rhythm that only true fated mates can share. Each gasp, every moan that fell from my lips, served as both confession and absolution, while he was kissing and nibbling each inch of my body, the sins of my past cleansed in the fervour of our union. Our love-making was the sweetest torment, the pain of release a spectre I had never dared to face until now. In the arms of Ezra Darkmoon, my Alpha King, I found not just solace but salvation, a resurrection of the woman I was meant to be. As the tides of pleasure rose to consume us, I revelled in the exquisite agony of rebirth. No longer haunted by ghosts, I was anchored in the present, every inch of my being alight with the fire of his claim. The crescendo of our passion broke like a wave against the shore of my soul, carrying me beyond the realm of mere sensation to a place where only pure being existed. Ezra's hands, those instruments of tender dominion, traced patterns of fiery claim across my skin, marking me as his in a way that words could never suffice. As we climbed to our orgasms together, his touch seared into me, an indelible brand that spoke of ownership and surrender, the paradox of our union. In that moment, as the pinnacle of ecstasy loomed before us, I felt the chains of my past shatter. The spectre of torment that had once clung to me like a second skin dissipated in the forge of our coupling. My cry, mingling with his, was both a dirge for the woman I had been and a hymn to the one I was becoming. Amidst the tempest of release, he marked me, his teeth bore into the flesh of my neck, befitting our primal nature, but with a whisper of power that resonated deep within my very essence. It was a branding for life, for our bond to be strengthened, binding me to him for eternity, and I revelled in it. He licked my wound to ease my pain, what felt more like a sweet torture instead. As the world returned, a quietude settled over us like a mantle of stars draped across the night sky. My head found its resting place upon the steadfast drum of his heart, its rhythm a soothing balm to the rawness of my senses. There, entwined with Ezra, the weight of existence seemed to lift, allowing a fragile peace to blossom within the dark garden of my thoughts. The air of the royal suite, heavy with the scent of moonflowers from the gardens below, wrapped around us in a gentle embrace. The tapestry of shadows cast by the moonlight through the sheer curtains danced lazily across our still-joined bodies, a silent witness to the profound shift that had occurred between us. With each shared breath, the reality of our new beginning took root, promising to grow into something neither time nor fate could ever undo. The world outside, with its lurking dangers and haunting memories, receded into the background, rendered inconsequential by the sanctuary we had found within each other's arms. Our bond, forged amidst whispers of silk and shadow, was a living thing now, thrumming with the vitality of our combined spirits. I lay there, a creature reborn from the ashes of her former life, listening to the symphony of the night that played just beyond the walls of our haven. The rhythm of our hearts became the counterpoint to the distant howl of wolves, a reminder of the wild legacy that coursed through our veins. And in the stillness that followed the storm of our joining, I knew that no matter what tomorrow might bring, we would face it as one together. In the cocoon of Ezra's embrace, my thoughts spiraled inward, seeking the girl I once was, a creature caged by shadows and fear. She had lived, breath shallow and eyes wide, under the tyranny of whispered threats and cold, unyielding hands in the darkness of a wretched cabin, so weak. But as I lay there, skin still flushed with the remnants of our passion, I knew she had been exorcised by the fervent joining of two souls, her essence transmuted into something fierce and new. A sigh slipped through my lips, not of sorrow but of release, for the spectres that had haunted me were now mere phantoms of the past. My heart, once shackled by trepidation, now beat with the cadence of newfound strength, each pulse a testament to the love and connection that had blossomed within this very chamber, its walls adorned with shadows that seemed to cradle rather than confine. Ezra's arms tightened around me, his chest a steady drum against my ear, a rhythm anchoring me to the present, his voice a low thrum mingling with the silence, spilled words of love and eternal commitment, each syllable a brushstroke painting a future unfettered by the chains of bygone torments. "Amara," he murmured, and his voice was the call of the night, luring me further from the precipice of old agonies. "You are the moonlight to my darkness, the solace to my spirit. I love you." There, amidst the hushed tones of his devotion, our bond solidified, an unbreakable alloy forged in the crucible of our shared struggles and triumphs. With each breath, I felt the tethers of our enigmatic dance entwine more intricately, a tapestry of fate and choice that no force could rend asunder. The world beyond the palatial stones and velvet darkness might have quaked with unseen horrors, yet within the bastion of Ezra's arms, such fears dissolved like mist before the dawn. Our collective past, littered with battles and scars, had been a prelude to this moment of unity, where every shadow acknowledged served only to heighten the brilliance of our conjoined light. The moon in its imperious ascent cast a pallid sheen over the world it surveyed, and beneath its gaze, I felt my very soul laid bare. It was a relentless luminary that bore into me, an orb of silvery light washing over my form as if to cleanse the remnants of a life too marred by shadows. In its presence I could not hide. All was revealed, every scar, every fear, every nascent hope that blossomed within my breast. I stood upon the cool earth, Ezra's warmth a ghost at my back, his breaths a distant echo to the rhythm of the night, his vows of love still clung to the air like the scent of rain on dry soil. Yet it was to the moon I turned my supplicant gaze. As its rays enveloped me, I could almost hear the whispers of the moon goddess, her voice a velvet caress against the tumult of my thoughts. "Amara," she seemed to murmur, and I knew it to be but a figment, a wisp of fancy born from the depth of my own yearning. Daughter of the night, child of change. A shiver coursed through my veins, a reverberation not of cold, but recognition. The path ahead loomed, fraught with spectres of a past that clawed at my heels, threatening to draw me back into the abyss from which I had crawled. Yet the moonlight conferred upon me a mantle of courage, its glow a testament to the transformation wrought within my very marrow. Yes, the road ahead would be rife with turmoil, a journey through brambles and bracken that sought to ensnare. But no longer was I the trembling weakling who cowered in the dark recesses of a desolate cabin, haunted by the echoes of malice and pain. No, I was the woman who had danced with passion in the arms of an alpha king, whose heart had been tempered in the crucible of an unyielding bond. A woman reborn under the auspices of an ancient and watchful deity. Ezra, my anchor in the storm, my shield against the onslaught, remained steadfast at my side. Together, we were a confluence of power and purpose, a union blessed by the heavens and envied by the abyss. With him, I could brave the snarling maws of our foes, face the creeping tendrils of dread that seeped from the corners of this cursed land. As the moon climbed higher, casting elongated shadows across the palace gardens, I sensed the shift within, the stirring of a primal force that tethered me to the earth and sky. The lunar radiance imbued me with a clarity that pierced through the veil of uncertainty, illuminating the certainty that, come what may, we would endure. I gazed up at the moon, feeling its luminous embrace cocoon me, and in that hallowed silver light, I found an unspoken vow. It was a promise etched in the cosmos, as eternal as the cycle of night and day. No matter the trials that awaited, no matter the horrors that lurked in the hearts of men or the shadows of the forest, Ezra and I would face them all, bound by love, tempered by fire, and guided by the celestial dance of fate itself.